Hi everyone, welcome to another Yarn Scrap Friday with me, Laura, and something a little bit different this Friday. It's a sponsored video by one of my favourite craft companies, Clover, a Japanese company, and they very kindly sent me a product to test, and it's a product I've never used before. And so this is going to be not only a tutorial on how to use this product, but also you can see I can explain some of the problems I had starting out using this product. So hopefully if you want to give this a try, you'll have a really good beginning understanding of how to use this product. So, and obviously I only share products that I really want to try or really love, because it actually costs me to get these sent to where I live in the world. So there's import costs. So you know this is going to be a very fun, interesting product. So, and today's product is actually a punch needle hoop and a punch needle as well to go with the hoop. So these are new products by Clover, and you may have heard of punch needle crafting before, or this may be completely new to you, but we're going to have a look at these products and hopefully create something nice. So if you've never heard of punch needle crafting before, it kind of looks like this. Now, this is obviously me as a beginner, so this is not an expert punch needle design or anything like that. It's just a very random design just to test the product. So you end up with two sides, so you can choose which side you prefer, the stitch side or the loop side here. So we're going to take an in-depth look at these particular punch needle products by Clover, and they very kindly sent me the hoop, and the punch needle itself. So if we open up the hoop first, this is very similar to sewing. So when you do embroidery sewing, you would use a hoop for that. But this is a little bit more specifically designed for punch needle. And in the box, obviously you get some instructions. So as I've already used this product before, the instructions are outside the box. But you will get this hoop here, which has a larger hoop and an inner hoop and an outer hoop, like this. So it works very similarly, I can't speak today. It's very similar to a normal embroidery hoop, but with that you also get some special legs. So we're going to attach these little legs, these little feet, to the product, and there's 4 of them. So I'm just going to find these smaller lines here and then just count over 2, and they just slot on to the product. So I'm going to space these evenly around, like so. I actually found the instructions that came with the product quite useful, so I actually understood them. Sometimes Clover instructions are a little bit vague. I know people have had that a lot with the pom-pom maker, but these instructions were actually quite helpful. So, and we end up with something like this, and then we can unscrew the outer hoop and remove that, so we add our fabric. Okay, so we'll come back to this product. So with that, they also sent the actual punch needle as well. So in this box is the punch needle, and also, if I move this, you also get in a little bag, you get a little piece of string and a yarn needle. And with the string, which I've already attached, you thread it through the yarn needle and just tie it in an end. So you don't need to cut it or anything like that. You just end up with this loop of a string, and I'll explain why later. And then with the actual punch needle, you get a little hand rest here, this little rubber ring, and we take off the cover, and it looks something like this. Now, depending on the size of the loop that you want, so underneath, when you make, so this is the stitch side, this is the loop side. So if you prefer the loop side, you can adjust the size of the loop. And to do that, you get these little extra bits here that you can move around. There's another one here to adjust the size of the loop. So you can add them all to the end like this and end up with a much smaller loop, or you can move them up to the top. You can move them all up to the top if you want to create a much larger loop this side. So I kind of ended up with sort of a large size with 2 at the end and just 1 here. So if we have a look on the instructions, you can see they show the different length sizes of the loops on the back, depending on where you place these little adjusters. So I've gone for option 3 here for large loops, which worked really well for me. So we have 1 at this end and then 2 at this end. So we're going to work with that, but you can experiment and play. And one of the most important things is the fabric. So, and I will explain this. Okay, so this fabric's quite thready, but when we add our fabric, you can't just use any fabric, which I have discovered. So the mistake I made was just grabbing any fabric, which I'm sure a lot of beginners will do. And the problem with using any fabric is you're going to end up kind of destroying your fabric. It does work, but it's extremely hard to effectively create a hole with this into normal fabrics. So the type of fabric you want to use for this project, which a lot of people don't talk about, is the fabric here, this type of fabric. And I unfortunately can't remember the name of this fabric, so I could probably know the Hungarian name. But it's this sort of fabric that we use in kind of tapestry, and it has these tiny little holes. It's like a woven fabric. So I'll put a link in the description below to Amazon, for example, to this particular product to help you find the name. So this is the type of fabric you want to use. And the reason for that is it makes it a lot easier for the punch needle to go through the fabric, because you've already got holes created, but you don't need to follow the actual holes. You can just work into it as you like, which I'll show you. So I'm going to add this to the punch, to the loop. Okay, so we've got a little selection of this fabric, which is a little bit annoying because it frays like there's no tomorrow, but you can, when you finish a project, you can glue the edges or fold the edges over to stop that problem. So we're going to get our hoop and we're going to place the fabric over the inner hoop, and just like embroidery sewing, we're going to place the larger hoop over the top and then screw into place. And as you screw into place, you want to just tighten the fabric as you go. So you're just going to pull it a little bit to make sure it's nice and taut. So, and remember, this is not an expert tutorial. This is a tutorial by someone who's only just learned how to use this product. So I hope that my experience will help those who have never used it before as well. And I can clear up some confusions about this product and really help you, enjoy something new, a new craft that you may really get into. So it's quite addictive. I hated using this at first. It was very hard. But now I actually really, really enjoy it. So definitely give it a go. Okay, so when we've got that, so it's almost like drum tightness, we are going to thread our punch needle. Okay, so we've decided on the length of the loop that we want to create, and we're going to bring back our yarn needle where I've threaded on the string and tied in an end. And I recommend using a chunky yarn. So I ended up using a chunky yarn weight of 5 or 6. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the end of our string, and what we do is we thread the yarn just through the end like so. And this is basically just to help you thread the yarn into your punch needle. Then through the end is a hole, and we're going to place the yarn needle through there. Let it come down to the bottom, and then hopefully that will just pull your yarn through the punch needle, and then we can remove that, put that to the side. And you want to leave at the end maybe sort of a couple of inches at the end. And now we're ready to start. So we're going to get our hoop, and you can draw a design. I'm just going to demonstrate any stitching, but you can draw a design that you want to follow. And I highly recommend not doing something too ambitious. So you really want to do just something random like I did at the beginning, just to get used to using the punch needle. Okay, so what we want to do is we place the punch needle into the fabric, and you want to go all the way down to the blue part here before coming back up, and try and keep your punch needle upright. And what we want to do is, when we come back out, we want to keep the punch needle very, very close, almost touching the fabric. So we're just going to skim over and then go back down again. And we're going to continue that all the way. And it's very important as well, actually, that the yarn is coming out the back. So you can see, if I just open here, that the sloping part of the punch needle needs to be facing away from the direction that you're sewing. So, and if you get a loop like this, you can just pull the end and then continue down. So we're going to go down, all the way down to the blue part, come back up, we're going to skim the fabric and then go back down. And just continue that all the way across. Okay, you don't need to worry about going into the holes exactly, you can just push down like so, because if you come up too far like this, you can end up with some big loops, and then it could very easily just ping, 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 and come undone. So make sure you have a couple of inches at the end, and make sure the yarn is always facing away from you. And when you work your sewing, you want to go up and down like this, or maybe you want to work in a triangle, sewing like this. There's instructions for that. With the instructions, there's some examples of what direction to go in, but just make sure the yarn is coming out the back and the pointy part is in the direction you're sewing. So hopefully that makes sense. So we're going to go down, go all the way down to the product, the blue part. Then we're going to make sure the yarn's facing in the right direction. Skim the fabric and go back down, and just continue that over your design. And it seems like you may think to yourself, how is this working? What is it catching on? Won't it just come undone? But it does, if the yarn is chunky enough, it does stay in, and you create these little stitches. So when you get to the other end and you want to change direction, we're going to twist our product, twist the punch needle. So again, the yarn, you can see there, is facing away from the direction we're going. So we want the slope of the hook facing away. So hopefully I'm explaining this well enough. And we're going to move in this direction. So now the slope is at the back because we're moving in this direction. And again, just making sure to skim the fabric, don't come up too high. We just continue our design, like so. And again, if you want to, you suddenly do this and you're like, oh no, I've created a loop, what do I do? Just place the hook, needle, punch needle, next to the fabric, and then just pull the tail end of the yarn until it goes short again, and then just go in, and you should have saved your project. And then just continue again. And then again, we're going to twist the needle as we're changing direction to make sure the yarn's still coming out the back as we move. And again, changing direction, I'm going to twist it again so the slope's at the back, because we're now coming down or up, depending on how you're looking at this. And then we continue in the opposite direction. And one of the most important things as well is the working yarn needs to be loose at all times. So if this gets caught on something, you'll see what happens. It doesn't go through, you see, it just starts unpicking like that. So if this is tight, this is going to cause you problems. So you must always make sure that this has lots of loose yarn and is not being restricted at all. So that will also really help, so double check that. And then just let the yarn flow freely through the punch needle. Okay, so we just continue our design. And I will show you what it looks like on the back. So this side, like I said here in this example, is the stitch side. So you would continue your design and you'd end up with the stitch side. And you can choose any side, either side that you prefer. So we have the stitch side, and on the back, hopefully, it goes to plan, you end up with the loops on the inside, which would be this side here, these lovely loops. And depending on which side you want to keep, how do you stop it coming undone once you've finished? So when you finish, you're going to end up with something like this. And you'll have these tail ends, especially where you've changed colour. And this is all loose. You could literally pull this and the whole thing will come undone. So how do you stop that? So you choose which side you want. If you want this side, you can just thread these to the other side and glue them into place. So you could take a yarn needle, which I don't have, which is very annoying. So I'm going to use this one. I'm going to thread, you can thread the tail end on and just sew that to the other side. So the tail end ends up on the other side. And then once your tail ends are all on the other side, you would then just glue, so using normal children's glue, PVA glue, you would just secure that into place and that would stop that coming undone. And you could do the same for all the other tail ends. So we could thread these all to the other side. So just show you again, using this punch needle, using this needle. So we just thread that to the other side. And then we could secure that. We could either sew it in to this side, we could glue it, but that would basically stop all these tail ends coming undone, and then you can enjoy this side of the project. However, if you prefer the loop side, you can actually cut the loops, but before you cut the loops, you're going to have to glue the whole of this side. So if you want the loops to stay in place, on the stitch side, we're going to glue the whole side. And the reason for that is if you want to cut the loops, they're going to come undone very easily, because as soon as you cut these loops, you're going to end up with tiny little bits of yarn. So to stop them coming undone, you have to glue the whole of the back side. But if you want to just keep the loops and not cut them, so you want to just keep it like this, it's just the same thing again. You can just glue the tail ends on this side or tie them into place, and that will stop it coming undone. But the instructions with the Clover kit explain this in better detail. But that's how you would secure your project, and that is basically it. So that is the how you use the Clover punch needle and hoop set. So yeah, so as soon as you've had a little practice, you can design some really interesting designs and start creating some beautiful punch needle projects. Like so. And if we look on the box, they've got some really nice examples of some of the designs that other people have done here. Some like flowers and some ice cream, so you can get very, very creative with the types of designs that you want to create. So I hope you enjoyed that tutorial. I hope it's introduced you to something new and or hopefully helped you understand a product or technique you've heard of before but not really understood the details. So like I said, this is a new experience for me as well, so it's been quite a learning curve for me as well. But in my next Yarn Scrap Friday, we're going to have a little bit of a crochet along. So there's going to be 2 videos over 2 Fridays, and that's going to be for my realistic little sunflower. So join me next Friday for the beginning of this little mini crochet along for this gorgeous sunflower. But I want to say a huge thank you to all my membership, my members on my website, and my Patreon supporters as well. We're actually moving away from Patreon now. We're moving over to the website. So there's 2 memberships now available on the website, which I'll talk about in more detail in another video. But there's the free membership and a membership plus area as well, so where you can get all the previous Patreon benefits. So do check that out. I'll put some links in the description below to that, and also to these products. But I will see you soon for some more crochet crafting fun. Thanks for watching, guys. Bye.